Hello and welcome to our LINB20 Sociolinguistics project, Think Pink, by Group 15, Laylah and Gabby. So some key terminology that is relevant to our topic, there are two main words, basic color terms and precise color terms. A basic color term is a word or phrase that refers to a color, such as red, orange, yellow, and there are a chief set of 11 color terms, basic color terms that are used in most modern languages. A precise color term is a more descriptive, detailed word or phrase or compound word that refers to a specific color, such as blue-green or sky blue, turquoise, etc. There are endless amounts of precise color terms. So the research question that we are interested in is, how do age and academic background influence whether straight women use basic versus precise color terms? So some background information on our topic and why we chose this topic is that we learned that straight women tend to use precise color terms more. So we were interested in researching how other social factors affect color naming within straight women. And in particular, we wanted to answer the questions of whether a woman's age and her educational background as in her field affect her use of color terms. So our hypotheses are one, that straight women who are younger in age will provide a more precise use more precise color terms in comparison to those who are older in age who will use basic color terms, and also that straight women who have an educational background in the arts will provide a more precise color term rather than a basic color term compared to those who are in other fields.
Okay, so our first article for our literature review is Laylah, who explores women's language in regards to various factors. So Laylah studies that gender and social status heavily affect color naming, and that women's speech possesses more descriptive vocabulary, meaning that they use just more words when it comes to describing colors, and that women have an active vocabulary while it is absent for men. So this study inspired our research as it highlights women's use of precise color terms. Our second article is from Nowak, who highlights color naming in relation to sex and gender. So Nowak studies how college-age women use more expansive color terms than men. Women were able to describe more color terms than men and also use more elaborate descriptions. This study suggests that college-age students use color terms often, which supports our first hypothesis, which is that young people use more specific color terms than old people. And our final and third article is by Wick, who studies how seniors use color terms. Wick studies how broad color terms were more frequently used compared to specific color terms, and that there was a recognition of broad color terms over specific ones. There's also a visual aspect such as farsight and diagnosis of cataracts that play a role in color naming for seniors. This study indicates that seniors do not utilize precise color terms much, so this also supports our first hypothesis. So now we move on to the methodology. So we have the data collection process. We began this whole thing by creating a survey using Google Forms. And in the description, we include the information that we are two undergraduate students taking this course, LINB20, and that this is a data collection survey for our final research project. We distributed this form to people who we know from all different age ranges and academic backgrounds so that we would have a variety of responses. And we also asked these people who we know to also send it out to people who they know as well. So Google Forms recorded our findings, and then we transferred this data into an Excel sheet. In the survey, we asked 12 questions. So we asked the respondents to select their age, gender, sexual orientation, and academic field, and these are our independent variables. We also asked the respondents if they were native speakers of English. And then we asked the respondents to type the color term of 3 miscellaneous objects. And then we scattered 4 filler questions in between the color naming questions. And the reason we added these filler questions is to distract and disguise what what we're trying to actually study and research from this survey so that the respondents don't give biased answers. So our dependent variable, and this is where our respondents either use basic or precise color terms when naming these 3 items that you can see on the screen, and we tried to find items as different of a color of pink as possible to allow the respondents to use different color naming terms. Yeah. And then we also have controls over here, which is that we, for gender and sexuality, we made sure that the data we collected was from straight women. So we made sure to ask this question, as well as distribute the survey to at least 20 participants per age group to get a variety of answers. So here are the details of our respondents from the straight women that we collected from our data. As you can see, we have 20 respondents per age group, and on the right-hand side of this screen, you can see that we also talk about the academic fields of the participants, and so we got quite a variety of the participants' responses. And we have the methodological problems. So in this survey, we did not ask for color blindness, because if we did, the purpose of our survey would be revealed, and then the respondents might be biased when answering. And also, due to the nature of our survey, it was difficult to disguise the purpose of our studies. So the participants may have guessed what our research was about, and therefore may be biased when naming colors.
So now let's look at the data we collected from our survey. So our first social factor was age, and we recorded the number of times each of our age groups used the basic color term pink versus the number of times they used a more precise color term. The second social factor we were looking at was the participants' academic fields. So again, we looked at the number of times each of the participants used the basic color term pink versus the amount of times they used a more precise color term. And the academic field we're most interested in looking is the arts. So here's a visualization of our data, and on the legend you can see that the bottom color of the bar shows that the usage of the basic color term pink, and the lighter one stacked on top shows the usage of a more precise color term. So looking at the age group 18 to 30, we can see that they use precise color terms a lot more, and they hardly use basic color term pink, versus on the far right, we can see that the age group 60 plus uses basic color terms a whole lot more and hardly uses a precise color term. And our second social factor was academic field, and again, the legend represents the same things as the previous slide. So we can see that there is not much of a pattern this time, and seems to be little correlation between academic field and the percentage of times a color term was used. And for the arts, you can see that it's not higher or significantly lower than any of the other fields. It's sort of just in the middle, and they're kind of just staggering up and down. So from the data we just looked at, we can conclude that our first hypothesis is correct, since we hypothesized that straight women who are younger in age will provide more specific color terms compared to those who are older in age, and the data does support this, as the 18 to 30-year-olds, our youngest age group, used precise color terms a whopping 88% of the time, versus the 60 plus, the seniors, used it only precise color terms only 21% of the time. And our second hypothesis was that straight women who have an educational background in the arts will provide more precise color terms compared to those who are in other fields. And surprisingly, this hypothesis was not correct, because our data showed no significant correlation between educational background and color naming in women. So in conclusion, looking at our hypotheses, they do suggest that there are social factors that do influence the way straight women utilize color terms. So we think it would be really interesting to look at further research on age, academic background, gender, as well as other social factors And this could give us a better understanding of how people of different genders and sexual orientations utilize color terms.
Yeah, so here are our references, all of the articles that we used in our research. And thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, we hope you found our presentation interesting and informative.